Hi, welcome to Preparing Your Manuscript for Submission by the NMSU Graduate School. A lot of people have questions about how to go about actually formatting your manuscript, and we're going to do a quick rundown of that here. We can start by going to our website, gradschool.nmsu.edu, and going to Current Students, Thesis and Dissertation. Depending on whether you're a master's or a doctoral student, you're going to want to go to your respective link. However, the formatting for both is virtually the same as far as preparing your manuscript for submission. So we're going to go over the steps here. And I'm also going to have a sample for you over here so you can see what it looks like. Now, the neat thing is on our website, we also have a sample formatted dissertation and thesis. So this is what I'm going to be using to explain the process over here. And you can also use that for yourself. It has fields where you could just replace with your information as it applies to you, and it's basically formatted for you down to the content, which you just need to replace with your own content. So starting with file format type, we're going to want this to be an Adobe PDF. Make sure it's not compressed and does not have password protection enabled, and make sure there are no digital signatures. And this is to allow for printing and reproduction. That way there's no, I guess, difficulties or whatnot when exporting your manuscript. If you're going to be using multimedia files, this includes things like images, video, or audio. You're going to want to avoid embedding those in your actual document, and instead you're going to submit those as supplementary items. Supplementary materials, there's a whole section here for that. If you are using images, you're going to want to make sure they're in GIF, JPEG, or TIFF format. If you're using videos, you're going to want to make sure they're in either QuickTime Movie, AVI, or MPEG format. If you're using audio files, you're going to want to make sure those are in AIF, CD-ROM, MIDI, MPEG-2, SND, or WAV. And again, because these are the most universally accepted file types, just to make navigation and exporting easier. As far as setting your actual margins for the page, or for your whole manuscript actually, you're going to want those to be 1 inch across all pages. And I believe it defaults to this, but if you have to go ahead and set margins, you would do that by going to custom, making sure they're all 1 inch, top, bottom, left, and right. And again, if we're going by that sample dissertation or thesis off our website, all this is done for you. Going through, we're going to make sure we use an acceptable font. So a lot of people are familiar with Times New Roman. Times New Roman 12 is, basically the universal standard. When we are using fonts, though, we're going to want to make sure that those are embedded. And that is to preserve the appearance of your manuscript, because if you don't embed the fonts, then it's going to affect the way it appears electronically. As far as the actual content and line spacing, just about everything is going to be double spaced except for certain items like footnotes, endnotes, bibliographic entries, lists and appendices, or information like this. So these would be single spaced. If we come down to the actual content down here, once your manuscript content starts with your first chapter, this would be double spaced, for example. All that is line spacing. Important to keep in mind about color if you are using images or any multimedia, that microfilm and print reproductions do not preserve color, but when they're viewed electronically, they do. Just keep this in mind that anything that is in color will appear in shades of gray and may affect the way figures, illustrations, photographs, and graphics appear across other items. So like microfilm, microfiche, for example, will not be viewable in color. And this is just a quick tip for best results. You'll want to have color photographs reprinted in black and white by a professional lab, again, just to preserve readability. Another quick comment about the reproduction and the way the colors are preserved. Now, once we begin the abstract, there's actually no longer a word limit on there's no longer a word limit for your abstract. So that is again to make your ability to describe your research as enhanced as possible. Again, using as much details as you need to get your work out, to disseminate your work. So the abstract will not be altered in any way once it's submitted. If your abstract is not in English, or if your manuscript is not in English, you will want to have an English version of your abstract as well. And again, that's for disseminating your research. Getting over to the manuscript specifications, for items that might be bound in 6x9, that's where we're going to want the formatting to just be consistent throughout your whole page. Going over to supplementary materials, this is anything that you're going to be using as multimedia or separate items. You're going to want to avoid, again, embedding those in your actual manuscript, and you're going to use the supplementary files section of ProQuest to upload any of those items. Make sure you describe your files in your abstract. Anything that you use that's going to be described visually, you'll want to include that as well. So again, this is just some more information regarding supporting documents, the reprint permission letter if you're going to include multimedia material, and that includes copyrighted material. You're going to want to provide ProQuest with the written permission to include it. This is if you're using like photographs, videos that are copyrighted, you're going to need to receive permission to use those. And any third-party software licenses, if they apply to your work, are also going to need to be included also. And that is basically it. As far as embedding fonts, this is the guide that tells you how exactly to do that. The thing to keep in mind with these fonts with asterisks is that these are true type fonts. They're not scalable, so they're easier to read across different mediums. So for example, Times New Roman 12 is a true font. That's a totally acceptable font format. You're going to want to make sure your fonts are embedded in your actual manuscript. That can be done here. And that is basically it. Again, if you're going to be doing all of this from scratch, you are more than welcome to do so. However, also keep in mind that the grad school does have a sample formatted dissertation and a sample formatted thesis for you to use or to refer back to as you're going along. Thanks so much for sticking by, and I hope that clarified a little bit as far as preparing your manuscript for submission.